Hi, I'm Jimena, and before I start, I want you to know something about me. I have always had a passion for languages, discovering other cultures, traveling, and learning new things every day. I was born and raised with my parents and brother in Spain, where I spent the first 12 years of my life. I then moved to boarding school in England and have lived with my friends since. I speak Spanish, English, and French. This led me to questioning how our curious minds could manage to become fluent in more than one language, and why everyone says it is easier for a child to learn a language rather than when becoming an adult. Having said this, welcome to Learning a Language, Child versus Adult. There is a generally widely accepted view that children can learn languages more easily than adults. But to what extent is this true? There is a wide range of research done in this area, and it can lead to some interesting discussions about what age is the best to introduce a second language to a child. What are the best methods for teaching a second language to students? And what advantages does being bilingual give you? Research overwhelmingly supports teaching second languages early, because as we know, it is harder to learn a second language as we get older. This is due to the fact that language involves both types of functions found in separate hemispheres of the brain. There's the analytical and logical hemisphere and the emotional and social hemisphere. The critical period hypothesis was developed based on this, a theory where children learn languages more easily because the plasticity of their developing brains lets them use both hemispheres in a language acquisition. Meanwhile, in most adults, language is lateralized to one hemisphere, usually the left. But when kids are very young, from birth to about 3 years old, they are very ripe for receiving new information. Of course, you can learn another language later, but it takes more time and becomes more challenging. It is true that kids might be confused a little bit at the beginning when there are two different labels for things, or they need to use different languages to talk to different people. It can be normal for children learning more than one language to experience what is known as interference, when the grammar and structure of one language influences the grammar of the other language they are learning, which can lead to some grammatical errors. There are also many different methods to teach people new languages, each being more effective and efficient depending on the person and their learning abilities. Here are some of the best methods to learn a new language. Make new friends, ideally someone that speaks the language you are trying to learn. Find an international pen pal and trade some language expertise and knowledge. You can watch a movie and listen to the radio to the point where you do not need some subtitles anymore. Also, do some role plays, such as pretending you're in a restaurant or in a tourism booth. They are very effective. You can also seek out for online resources and courses, or teaching yourself, making small goals to attain every day. Finally, going abroad. Live with a host family boarding school by yourself. You will be able to learn a language as well as a culture. It will be very beneficial for you. Each student will find a method that is more suitable for them. However, no matter what methods each person is using, there are 3 tips to always follow in order to achieve your goals. Be patient with yourself. Commit to speaking the target language. And make friends with native speakers. It is evident that there are some psychological barriers such as fear of failure, lack of seeing the big picture, or isolation when learning a new language. However, this can be overcome by keeping in touch with a community or making realistic and specific goals, reminding yourself while you are learning, or even talking out loud to build some confidence. There are so many more. Now, let's move on. But before we learn about the benefits of becoming bilingual, or multilingual even, we have to understand that there are different scenarios in life that can impact our outcome. For example, there are 3 types of bilingualism. There's compound bilingual, coordinate bilingual, and subordinate bilingual. A compound bilingual is someone who develops 2 linguistic doses simultaneously, with a single set of concepts. For example, a child growing up with parents speaking different languages at home. A coordinate bilingual is a person that learns with two sets of concepts. For example, learning English in school but continuing to speak Spanish at home. That is my case. Finally, subordinate bilinguals. These are people who learn a secondary language by filtering it through their primary language. Think of my parents, for an instance. They filter English through their brains in Spanish. So, what are the benefits of becoming bilingual at a young age? Learning a second language when young may give you a more holistic grasp of its social and emotional contexts. Recent research showed that people who learned a second language in adulthood exhibit less emotional bias and a more rational approach, sounding almost like robots. Knowing and being fluent in more than one language will give you so many opportunities and benefits. These include a larger variety of countries you can visit, as well as connecting with other people and cultures. Also, you will be able to create connections all around the world, as well as boosting your confidence. You will be able to develop problem-solving skills and will be able to stand out from the crowd, leading to some career advances and scholarships. As mentioned earlier, of course, it will boost your brain. Learning a second language could help develop new areas of your mind and strengthen your brain's natural ability to focus. Now, bilingualism may not necessarily make you smarter, but it does make your brain more healthy, complex, and actively engaged. While carrying out this research, I asked myself, do children learn particular languages faster? People are keen to say that certain languages, think Russian, Arabic, or Japanese, are harder to learn. However, it's all pretty much subjective. You'll have a natural neurological preference to languages close to your own. This happens especially when there are lots of cognate words, that is, words from different languages that have the same etymological origin, such as brother in English and Bruder in German. It is true, however, that languages with vastly different phonetics will be harder to process. For example, languages such as Thai, Chinese, or Vietnamese. They use tones to distinguish lexical or grammatical meaning. Basically, the intonation of words can change their meaning. But of course, if you already speak a tonal language, learning another tonal one presents fewer problems. To conclude, learning a second language will give you infinite benefits, whether you learn the language at a young age or as an adult. However, it will be much faster and simpler the earlier the language is introduced to the person. It can also not be denied that difficulties will rise in the process. But as Henry Ford said, obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goal. If we are capable of staying focused on our goals, face our fears of failure or change, and recognize the things that demotivate us most, then the learning barriers will not get in the way. Thank you very much for your time and attention.